let's call this a start. Tell the people who you are and what you do.
All right, my name is Ricci Minella. I am the owner-operator of, first and foremost, the Burgh food truck. That's what we started off on. We actually started off on a hot dog cart going on almost 10 years now. And then we opened up our restaurant here, Brick and Mortar. We've been open here, going on our 4th year. Just got the building next door as well, so we're going to expand our dining room. And that's my spiel.
That's awesome. It sounds very official. I can already hear the phones ringing.
I don't know how to put it on mute.
No, it's totally fine. Actually, that's kind of been one of the cool things about this podcast is like when we started doing it, we wanted to show people in like an authentic setting because, you know, people are in like really weird, like awkward moments, trying to run their businesses from home and stuff like that. So like
Right.
I had a podcast with somebody that literally brought their laptop into their closet because they were working from home and that's the most quiet place that they could get away from their family. It was like in their closet.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, I cleared out some things and, you know, it doesn't look so bad. There's a chair and a laptop and here we are doing a podcast. So yeah, authenticity in the setting, I actually appreciate it. And I think actually people at home are appreciating it because they're seeing a little bit of a common thread between what they're watching and what they're living.
Right.
But, you know, so I got to see you recently. It really bums me out that I wasn't able to come inside and experience the vibe of your physical space. But thankfully I was still able to, you know, get takeout. And it was for me and my family on my birthday, which was awesome. We raved about the food all night. And I was comatose after eating the notorious PIG burger. Got him with a side of tots. But it was a big moment for you planting a flag and taking the operation into a fixed location. So give me a deep dive on all the things Burgh Bites Brick and Mortar, past, present, and future.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll just kind of give you the story here on how we got started. I was working for a company called, should I just unplug this, E? You think that's going to be an issue?
Whatever. Doesn't matter to me.
Ring. So I was working for a company called Living Social. Living Social was like Groupon. It was I wouldn't say the ankle biter of Groupon. It was pretty big. I got that job because from Duquesne, I was the president of the Duquesne Entrepreneurial Alliance. We started a student-run business, which was the first student-run business when I was president there. It was called the Burgh Card. I think you remember, you were involved. Touch Faster was involved.
Yep.
And we would sell the card. It's a discount card. We'd sell it to the students at Duquesne. At its peak, we had like 2,000 cards out. We had like 80 businesses that were signed up on the card offering a discount. That company dissolved once people graduated. I was kind of running it by myself. That card, the discount card, is what got me the job at Living Social. So I was really stoked about it. Big internet company. You know, they fly me out to Chicago to, you know, or I'm sorry, it was DC to, you know, give me a week training. It's really cool. So I'm working for them for 3 months and they fired me. So long story short with that was on a Monday. They fired me. By Friday, I had enrolled in culinary school. So I'm living at home. I didn't have even a steady girlfriend, you know, really no direction of where I was going to go. I just got fired. And I kind of just took a step back and said, you know, look, I've been through a couple jobs now. What do I really want to do? And since I was a kid, going to the Italian oven is what I think really did me in. I always wanted a restaurant. Not a good cook. Didn't like cooking. Didn't want to learn to cook. Just wanted a restaurant blindly. So during that week, I talked to my dad and I said, look, you know, what do you say we kind of partner up on something like this? He came from a restaurant background. my grandmother and grandfather were the owners of the Ritz down in Bridgeville. It's a
Yeah.
little shot and a beer bar, famous locally for their fish sandwiches, good home cooking. They ran that place for 50 some years, put my dad through college, put him through med school. My dad got out of the business, obviously. And now we're coming full circle, and I'm asking him, hey, let's do this. And he's obviously seen way too much. And he said, look, you don't know anything. We'll do culinary school. I'll help you get through that. And I said, all right, sure. Reluctantly going to culinary school to appease him. And as I'm going to school, I start really liking cooking. My mother's a great cook. Both my grandmothers were great cooks. I just wasn't into it. I just loved eating food. And I've been, not all around the world, but I've been to Italy and Spain, and I've seen some, really great cuisine. So I knew food well. I just didn't really know how to cook it. So I think what I later understood about why I didn't like cooking or want to cook was a little bit of the fear of the unknown. I didn't know how. So it was just like, I didn't really want to learn. Once I started learning, fell in love with it. And during that time, I was working in a little restaurant. It's called Il Berlone, a little Italian eatery. It's still there today. It's up in Scott Town Center. Great Italian food. That's where I met our now executive chef, John Trick. So I was working for him at the time, going to culinary school during the day, working for him at night. And then on the weekends, I had bought a hot dog cart that I luckily knew somebody that had a permit to a space in Shadyside on Walnut Street. Great location. So I rented his spot off him with my hot dog cart. So during the day, going to culinary school, going to work at the restaurant with John at night. Occasionally, he would come with me late night, Friday and Saturday night. After we closed the restaurant, we'd go and sell hot dogs till 3 in the morning. Occasionally, I have other people help me out. But what was really cool about that experience was that I got to test out recipes on a very forgiving crowd. People rolling out of the bars, just looking to shove their faces with anything they possibly could food-wise, and I was one of the only games in town there, right on the street, quick.
Right.
So we kind of, dug our heels in with hot dogs. That was our thing. Everybody knew we did bacon-wrapped hot dogs as well. But as I was learning stuff in school, I was testing out new sandwiches on these, the crowd at night, Cuban sandwiches. That's where we kind of perfected that. We did a falafel sandwich. That's where we perfected that. So it gave me a really unique, very forgiving environment to test out food on real customers. And they
Gotta love drunk people, man.
I'm going to write a book, Hot Dog Chronicles. There's a lot of love for them, and there was some really hilarious and bad moments too.
I'd write a book that has the same title, but it would be a whole different thing. It would be about how the economy collapsed as soon as I got out of college, and the only thing I could afford for 5 years was hot dogs.
Yeah, there you go. I can work both titles with that. So we saved up some money. Never wanted to get in the hot dog cart game. Never wanted to get in the food truck game. Wanted a restaurant. But the natural progression from the hot dog cart was to get a food truck. So what really kind of was a launching pad for that end of it was I took the hot dog cart up to Mount Washington, to Grandview Park, one afternoon in the summer, late spring, God, eight years ago. And there was the Friends of Grandview. They were the people that basically help run and fund the park up there. They
Right.
put on a community event up there, right? And they tasted, oddly enough, I had a really unique sandwich. It was a porchetta sandwich that I had up there. And one of the ladies came up and tasted it and just loved it and was like, oh my God, this sandwich is unbelievable. Do you want to do a dinner for us up here? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. At this point in time, I was saying yes to absolutely everything, good, bad, or indifferent. Fortunately, this one was unbelievably good, but I didn't know it at the time. she said, yeah, it's a dinner. We do it outside up here. We've been doing it for a couple of years. The chef isn't able to do it this year, so we're looking for somebody to fill the spot. And I'm just like, yeah, let's go, for sure. So I reach out to John. I tell him about this dinner I'm going to do, and no big deal. So I start finding out a little bit more and more about this dinner, and what it is a 100-person, $100 a plate dinner, 5 courses, that if that wasn't enough, the predecessor chef was the guy from from Cure.
Oh, you would know better than I would, but I definitely know Cure.
Oh God, I'm blanking on his name. He's got Cure. He's got the Spanish tapas restaurant down in Lawrenceville as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who it was. This guy was in, like, I don't know if it was Dish magazine or if it was something national, that I saw that and I was like, Jesus, I got to follow up this guy and put on a dinner for $100, plate, blah, blah, blah. And, that's long story short there, we did a great job of it. And, we did our own menu that was, homemade pasta and whatnot. And that opened up a huge door for us to do catering and weddings and all sorts of stuff, which eventually helped to drive the, idea of getting that food truck. So then, we ran with that for a couple of years, built up our business. During this entire time, for about the last 8 years ago, we started looking for a space. Finally, we find a little space in, luckily, the school district I grew up in, Chartiers Valley, right here in Heidelberg. And we got it for a great price. We built it out. It's got a garage in the back that, has our food truck. So now we're restaurant, food truck, catering, all out of the shop here. And it's been great. The community here has been hugely accepting of us and supportive of us. And we didn't mean to land in CV, but it's been huge help there. I get old school teachers. I get, people I haven't seen, friends I haven't seen, parents I haven't seen in 10 years coming to eat food here. And I think that's a lot of the reason we've been successful. So that pretty much brings us here to today.
Yeah, well, so that's kind of awesome that you were like, well, it wasn't part of the equation that that I would be where I went to high school. But I mean, if you pay attention to politics and especially like local politics and just kind of like how communities interact with themselves and the support they show people that whether or not they leave, they come back and they make an establishment, the support that comes back to them from giving back into the community that they grew up in is always I shouldn't say always, but is often received very well.
Right.
So yeah, that's amazing that it just kind of worked out that way for you. But obviously that had to be an easy decision to make, seeing that was an opportunity for you to jump on.
Yeah. And you know what? I kind of didn't want to end up Justin Severino. I had to look up his name. I couldn't. Justin Severino was the chef there. So I wanted to be where everybody else was going. Lawrenceville, downtown, Shady Side, all these kind of happening areas. And, I'm looking at here in Heidelberg, we got Muzzy's too, shot in a beer dive bar across the street and still smoke cigarettes in there. There's a brewery up the street, Insurrection. That was cool. But, I'm looking at this area and I'm like, this isn't exactly ideal for what I was envisioning. Luckily, we didn't follow that path. We just, we stuck with the game plan here and kind of made our own thing. We're kind of there's not a ton of places out in this area that luckily we compete with, so that was a blessing in disguise as well. So
you were saying, your dad helped you through culinary school, but is your family involved with the business now?
Yeah. So my mom, for the longest time, was my right hand man, or I was more her. She did a lot of teaching me of how to cook and whatnot. So that was her role early on, was just helping me cook and get food ready for going out at night or going out and doing a lunch. She has transitioned away from that, and she does all the books for us. So she does all the accounting and stuff, and that's stuff that I'm not good at or honestly want to do. And I'm sure she doesn't want to do it either, but she's very good at it and is diligent, and I can't thank her enough. And then my dad's just always got, he's always got the new best idea for me, whether it's the new sandwich he thinks of or seen, something like that. So he's always giving me, little bits of advice on, how to run the business here.
Nice, nice. Well, I was jumping off of your dad's suggestion. I was just going to ask, what do you consider your food style?
Yeah, I mean, it's American, really. I mean, we do Italian, but I think we do it in a bit of a classic, like old school American Italian style. We do the big portions, chicken parm, and we do a chicken Asiago dish. So in that vein, we do Italian, but we're not trying to be authentic Italian, And then from there, we have hot dogs on the menu as well. So we're kind of all over the map and everything in between. Pizza, burgers, salads, some snacks. So family oriented, but really I think what we focus on and we're driven by is the food, is good ingredients, being quick. We don't want to be a place that is going to be, we're casual. We want people kind of in and out. We focused a lot on our takeout business early on. And once again, that wasn't by design. The space that we're in here, we needed so much cooking space, prep space, storage space, and space for the food truck that with the small building we were dealing with here, we basically said, all right, we're going to put in a kitchen and everything we need, whatever's left, we'll have a dining room. So that left us with a pretty small dining room, which, once again, like I said, blessing in disguise, made us drive our takeout business and delivery business up. And people got to know us as that. When we told them, look, we don't have any tables, we got 20 seats and they're filled. All right, we'll take something to go. So now that's all we can do. We don't open up the dining room. And that's why we've been lucky in this whole situation, is that we hit the ground running when they did a shutdown.
Interesting. So you already had like an infrastructure for what this was going to force you into regardless.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of, it's fortunate. And, but I also feel like that's a good test of like how good the food is. Right. We do some work with, Dose Taqueria.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's kind of what their first location was, like maybe had like 10 seats in it. They couldn't possibly, it can only be takeout at this point. It's basically just they turned a dive bar into a taco shop. And then the food was so good that they were able to expand to a spot out on McKnight Road. So now they actually have like a legit restaurant and everything like that. So, it's like, it kind of speaks for itself, but in that little bit of a hustle mentality, it also proves that the food, has its merits.
Yeah. Well, no, I agree with you. When you say hustle mentality, when I think of business and entrepreneurship and starting businesses, that's one of the most fundamental things you need to have is that hustle. But I think also you want to, at least the way I look at it is, I don't like to take big risks. So like restaurants, number one, are risky business to be in. So having a small place to try and fill the seats is much less scary than having a huge dining room, a huge staff, and having to fill that every night. And that's basically how this whole business got built, was from basically as small of a food business as you can be, a hot dog cart, and just learning the whole way along that journey in the food truck, in the restaurant now, where, you know, it helps the scariness out because you learn things slowly as you go, you know?
That's interesting. So I was actually really excited to hear this like progression story because I mean, you and I really have never had this conversation before, but, and then I never really took into account that there is that even if somebody did what you did, which is, you know, food cart, food truck, physical location, that physical location most likely would be larger, would have the dining room, would have booths or something like that. And that there might actually be uh, a more streamlined step that people are skipping, which is the small dining room takeout, you know, portion of it, where, you know, you make the food stand on its merit before you give them like an actual experience.
Yeah. I think we still kind of run this place on a mentality that hasn't really left the food cart in some ways. Um, like I said, you know, we try to keep things quick, and convenient and casual. And I honestly think our kitchen, it's an open kitchen. So, I mean, it has that feel where you're still seeing the customer, at least when they were allowed in. Um, and, you know, I've worked in other kitchens, you know, where there's coursing going on and whatnot. And like I said, we just kind of run it in a manner that is quick and casual, and that's just kind of been the whole mentality of how our cooking is.
Well, so speaking of your cooking, um, like obviously your family is involved and like your dad gives you ideas and whatnot. Your mom has given you guidance throughout this whole thing. How much of your menu is influenced by the cooking you were raised on?
Yeah, I mean, some things I literally just dragged and dropped. Like pork and kraut balls was my grandmother's recipe. Just didn't change it. You know, the fish sandwich that we do here is as close as I could get to my grandmother, my other grandmother's way that she did it. And then, you know, something like a chicken parm, we just tried to not screw that up and just do it right. And then from there, you know, between me and John, we kind of created the rest of the menu. A lot of things that are on the menu, you know, what may have been an idea that I was coming up with and didn't really have it keyed in. And he kind of helped me do that with he's been in the industry for close to 20 years now, I think. And little things, I like to complicate things. Ask my wife with cooking at home. She thinks that I complicate things, which just kind of is, you know, part of the creative process. But he looks at things differently and found ways to simplify, streamline, and make all things told better. So some ideas were purely mine. Some ideas were purely his. Lots of them were just a mix of both. And plus other people that have cooked here and still work here have influenced the menu as well. We really try to keep the entire restaurant involved with the creativity of the food. Keeps everybody excited about it too.
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you were talking about how you like to complicate things, and John like kind of, you know, reins you back in, and you know, then, you know, in your opinion makes it better. Like I don't know if you've met my business partner Pat, but if not, you guys would love each other. We got to get you in a room.
Sure.
But we have a similar dynamic. I'm wordy, I'm verbose, I'm complicated, I am maybe a little too emotional, and he sees the forest for the trees. You know, like he's like, all right, we gotta bring it in. You know, we got, like, there's a lot of fat here. Cut down the fat, lean it up, and like get right to the point. Like, people don't want this whole thing. It's not always, you're not always shooting like a feature film. This might just be, like a 1 minute commercial.
Very, very similar in different businesses, but sounds very similar to how our relationship is here. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, like as I've been doing this podcast and talking to people, whether it's on the camera or off, it always seems like people that go far have these minds that work on both ends of the spectrum, and they're able to kind of pare it down to where it meets in the middle, and that tends to be where that great idea is.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things that I've definitely learned through this whole process is, number one, having a gas guy and a brake guy. One guy's flooring it. One guy is trying to hit the brakes to slow things down and get things right. And just to also know what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. Almost more importantly, what your weaknesses are, what you're not good at. And sometimes you can say to yourself, all right, well, I'm going to try to be better at this, whatever that is, which is always good. But what I usually go to is, look, I got enough on my plate to try to be better at this. Let's just find somebody that is good at that and bring them in and, play off of them and use, bounce ideas off of that person who's already good at that. So that's, and that, you know what, honestly, Ron Morris was the entrepreneurship professor at Duquesne, and he passed away from cancer a couple years ago. But his class I was never a real academic guy. His class was just a different beast. And that was one of the things that he said, know thyself. Know who you are. And if you can know who you are, you have a shot. If you don't know who you are, you don't want to figure out what it is you're good at and what you're bad at and admit that, you're going to have a tough time doing anything.
Yeah, no, and that's actually something that I kind of grew into as I was brought on board with like the startup that we're doing. And like I as we went along, I realized initially not great at sales. Like that was never my strong suit. I wasn't super confident with that. So me being someone that was involved in freelance, if you're not good at sales, then how are you pulling in a client? But thankfully, Pat's great at sales. And then like I'm a good idea guy. And then once an idea is, brought to like the final concept, I'm also good at execution. So I can bring it across the finish line, but sometimes, drilling down that idea to the finished product is like, what we were just talking about. You need the two minds on double ends, the other side of the spectrum.
Right.
And then I'm not amazing at books, but we have a guy that is, great at working our books. So like the team pulled together and we all pull our weight where, either we don't like Pat could probably run the books. Pat needs more time doing other things though. So we need somebody else that understands what we're up to and can run the books. So we have that. Yeah. So that all kind of that cohesiveness comes together and you really do need that. So knowing your strengths and especially being able to be humble enough to recognize your weaknesses is super, super important, and you'll go far doing it.
Right. No, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, you can always get better at the things that are your weaknesses, but you gotta be able to call them your weaknesses first.
Right.
Well,
you don't want to be one of those people either that say, the classic interview thing. Well, my weakness is I care too much.
God.
I work too hard.
Somehow your weakness is a compliment.
That's bullshit. Yeah, that's not right.
But I kind of want to bring it to like the very immediate situation that we're all dealing with now. So in your space, it seems like all eyes have been on bars and restaurants since COVID swooped in and upended everything. I know people will probably be upset I didn't mention music and entertainment venues, but even they can admit, like, in the grand scheme, bars and restaurants like land higher in the general public's day-to-day culture. So regardless, I was ecstatic to hear that you guys were doing well, but tell me how you've had to navigate through all the fluctuating restrictions and what adaptations you've had to make to keep yourselves positioned for success.
Yeah. To be honest, fundamentally, we didn't have to change a whole lot. Like I said, we were kind of already in this space. And what was convenient for us, so when all this hit, I think it was a Monday, and we were going to be opening that next day, Tuesday. And I downstaffed to 4 people, just me and 3 of the managers. And we opened up having no idea what was going to happen. I'm assuming everyone's going to stay at home. They're not trusting anybody to touch anything that's going in their mouth, and nobody's going to be going to restaurants. And we were just dead wrong from day one. We just got slammed. And I literally had to call in my mom and dad, to come and help us through that service. So that was day one. By that Friday, we were basically back to full staff, which I know, our employees here were definitely excited about and grateful that we were able to do that, and bring them back. So we didn't lose anybody. We didn't have to cut anybody, which like I said, not to toot our own horns, because that wasn't by design. We just were lucky enough to, all these pieces kind of fell into place. We had a small dining room forcing us to do takeout. So, we were able to, from the get-go, at least stay open. As other restaurants started getting into the game and figuring it out, takeout and delivery, and now, everybody's got Grubhub and Uber Eats and all that stuff to help them facilitate that, which we don't do any of that anymore because Grubhub was just honestly robbing us. And then we didn't even branch out. The taste in my mouth was so bad from them that we're just like, you know what, we're going to do our own delivery. We're up on employees at this point. So whoever's got a license, we're delivering now.
Yeah, that's actually interesting that you said that. So I don't know do you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is?
It rings a bell. I don't.
So he's like a YouTube famous entrepreneur. And I've been watching him for a long time. I mean, I think everybody should. I think he's got a lot of really good perspectives in a lot of different areas. But when this all started, he actually made not really a prediction, but kind of like a call to action that the people that will win are going to figure out, not how to just adopt, Grubhub, Uber Eats, and DoorDash or whatever, but do the work necessary to bring all of that in house and have a takeout and delivery, a really streamlined and efficient takeout and delivery process within their restaurants and bar business. And you saying that just literally just made me see him say it. Like that's 100% exactly what he said, which obviously then you get to capitalize on all of it because you're not losing any money to those companies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that was a scary clip to jump off of, to get away from Grubhub, because our revenue from Grubhub made it, the volume we were doing through Grubhub made it seem like it was a good thing. We were busy through Grubhub. But then month after month, you take a look at the money you're pulling in, and it just becomes not worth it. So it's like, we use Grubhub, I think, to help build our name because they have a huge platform. But at the end of the day, it's very hard to make money with them. But it was an uphill battle because you talk to everybody and their mother out there in the restaurant business, and like everybody's getting into Uber Eats and Grubhub and Postmates. And you see big chains doing it like Subway. And you're like, right, how can they be wrong about this? And I'm right by leaving those platforms. So it was definitely a really scary thing to say, all right, we're done with you, and we're going to take this on ourselves. And there was many hiccups along the way. So it did take a little while to figure out and streamline our deliveries. But at the end of the day, it was 100% worth it. And really take a step back and you think like, look, Grubhub and Uber Eats and all them weren't around 10 years ago, and people delivered food. So it's not like we have to reinvent the wheel here. It just took some thinking and some effort. And yeah, I mean, to anybody out there that would be listening to this that is in the restaurant game, I think it's so worth trying to take that in-house and get your own online ordering page, and do your own delivery. That's been my experience.
And actually, I like that you brought up that that Grubhub actually had a place that had like a small amount of value for you, with the sense that you were getting orders from the fact that people had the app, and that as they were scrolling the app, they'd see you, and that's how you would get some sales that you may not have otherwise gotten through your social media, whatnot, without like taking on an ad or something like that.
So I mean, and in that sense, I actually think if you're starting up a new restaurant, maybe get one of those platforms, get Grubhub or Uber Eats, to get your name out there, as a long-term, and view that as marketing. That's marketing with people getting your food. You're not going to make as much money on it, but you also spend money on marketing. And that's how they kind of reel you in.
Yeah.
To continue saying, well, yeah, but this is marketing. Yeah, this is marketing. At some point, it becomes not worth it, in my opinion. But it definitely has a place to get your name out there and to get people eating your food. Once you get to I think a certain level, you just got it. You got to jump off that cliff and do it yourself.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love how we were able to kind of frame that whole thing up. So at this point, I would kind of ask. Well, I would not kind of. This is usually where I would ask, about your professional journey. But I feel like I got that inside you talking about, basically starting from the cart, going to the truck, and now you have the actual shop. But I am curious. I'm going to kind of go off script here. What are some major things that you ran into that you weren't expecting to, or some major things that you learned, major obstacles that other people could learn from, from your experience getting a physical restaurant up and running?
Yeah. Staffing is probably the hardest part. Having employees is a very difficult thing to manage. You especially in the restaurant business, when you need a lot of people in this industry. And to be honest, you can't pay them truly what they're worth. There's just not enough room in selling your burger for $13 to pay your cook, 20 some bucks an hour. So, there's that balance of running a business, caring about your employees, trying to do right by them, and all that fitting together to make everybody as happy as you possibly can. And then not to mention, when you are dealing with hourly, and sometimes it's low hourly people that come and go, it's a very transient business where you have, in the restaurant industry, people come and go all the time. So you get all walks of life. Early on, when we were just opening up first year, we basically threw warm bodies at problems. And, we turned somebody who's never cooked a ticket in his life into a line cook, and basically just tried to plug the hole, put a Band-Aid on it, right? So now that we're going on almost 4 years, we have a great staff. And we've had people that have been here since the beginning and prior to. So figuring out what kind of employee you need And then once you find that person, doing whatever you can that is reasonable and good for your business to keep that person. That's been something that I've learned, is that I can't run this business without all the employees that we have. So when we get good people, you got to try to keep them. It's the only way to keep food consistent, is to have the same people cooking it day in, day out. That's been the fundamental thing that I've learned, is the ins and outs of having employees and what that whole picture comes with.
I mean, so that's amazing, because I kind of have this spiel that I give, with my 9 to 5 job, which is like, we're in tech, so the quality of someone in tech needs to be pretty high. A little mistake can go a long way and can mess up a lot of things. So I'm constantly talking to my team leader and like my manager, and I'm saying, like, we need to retain the all-stars, and like, to retain them, you need to identify them, and then let them know that you've identified them, and then B, or no, I guess that would be C, treat them like an all-star. Like, let them know that they're not expendable. Let them know that, obviously, like, if they get an ego about themselves,
Sure.
put them back in place. But if they're doing great work, reward the quality. Let them know that, you see the quality, that like it's appreciated throughout, the company, and then, give them compensation for the quality that they're bringing.
Yeah. Yeah. John Trick, our executive chef here, told me when I was first working for him at that little Italian restaurant, he said, Ricky, it's not cooking the food. Cooking the food's the easy part. He's like, it's dealing with coworkers and dealing with customers that really is what makes people get burnt out in this industry. And I found that to be really true too. It's a lot of times it's not the actual thing you're making or doing that is the hard part about your job. It's humans working next to humans, and it's just like that side of it that you don't read a book about. You just learn.
Yeah, and I mean, so we do a lot of consulting and branding, design work, and physical print, and we got into the space because we recognized that the customer service was actually the most lacking. It's not the quality. Like, there's plenty of quality printers out there, but it's the lack of patience with the printers dealing with designers. Like, we're designers and we bring our stuff to print, and like, these people are just, they're kind of the worst. They speak a different language. Like, printing language is is an entirely different language than, most other tech and design languages.
Yeah.
And they have no patience for just anybody else that, if they don't understand it, then they kind of will let you go, because, the print is not hurting. For as much as everybody thinks that digital is taking over, print is not hurting.
Yeah. Go other places easy.
Yeah, but there's a niche there, and we found it. And so that's kind of where we stepped in, and we were like, well, we're going to be the in-between. We're not going to, we're going to learn the lingo on that side, and then we're going to be able to deliver it in a user-friendly way, customer-friendly way on the service side.
Yeah. Now that's just as important as, in some people's eyes, you'll get a whole spectrum of people that just care about your product. In our case, the food. They don't care about anything else. Then there's people on the other end of the spectrum that almost don't care as much about the food, but really the customer service, whether it's quick, whether you're friendly to them on the phone, blah, blah, blah. And then there's all the people in between. But to be successful, you got to be able to get that whole spectrum of people to like what you do.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, we're gonna jump around just a little bit here. So I kind of want to go back to us. You know, you were telling me about your cart to food truck transition early on, and so there's such a difference in mobility between a cart and a food truck. What was the major difference in strategy between the two for you?
Um, with what I noticed when I had a hot dog cart was that I would go, especially when I'd go to these food truck roundups, and I'm this little hot dog cart there that I had this, you can see it back here, that
Oh
sign,
yeah,
right? It's the original banner we had. And I didn't have that for the longest time. So for as much as my food cart smelled great because of the food we were cooking and whatnot, and, we were stocked up with all these great sandwiches and a nice menu, people from a distance, especially in these food truck roundup environments, didn't know what we did, especially with the name, even when we think at that time, Burgh Bites. What is Burgh Bites? What do you make? Little bites of food. People think it was burgers. Then when they come up and we didn't have burgers, they're disappointed and they leave. So fighting our name was difficult, especially with the hot dog cart, because we didn't have a big sign on our truck that said, Pittsburgh Taco Truck was hugely successful. I think largely because you look at the truck, you know what he does. And
right.
It's tacos. Everybody loves tacos. BRGR has a truck. You look at their truck, you know what they do. You look at my cart, and you have no idea what I do. You got to come up, and you got to be one of those people that are interested in food and want to come talk and check out a menu and try something different. So transitioning from the hot dog cart into the food truck, we kind of kept all that in mind and definitely wanted to streamline a little bit more of what exactly we do, what Burgh Bites is. So when we made that, a lot of times with the hot dog cart, I was switching the menu up completely, new menu every week. And for as fun as that was, and for the small amount of people that really liked that, it was not sustainable. Nor was it, I think, necessarily good for business. It was one of those things that helped me experiment and try different things and figure out who we were. But once we got the truck, we really wanted to make sure we had things that were signature to us, and that being our homemade tortilla chips, our corn mango salsa, the Rastafarian sandwich that we make, the Cuban, just honing in on a actual brand is what that quantum leap was from hot dog cart to food truck. Once we learned that and had the food truck running and we had that brand, it was much easier to transition from that into restaurant once we had an identity, So I think that was the biggest thing that was evolved along the way.
That's interesting. I've had this conversation a lot where like you might want to come up with what you think is like a little quirky name or whatever, but it might actually fight against you. But like even you telling this story makes me have to like be a smart ass and ask you this question: has anybody hit up Brick and Mortar looking for masonry work?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was waiting for that first call to happen. And it happened in like the first month of opening. And I actually got the pleasure of taking it. And it's just really funny that would even happen, because if you're going online and you're looking at it, it says, yeah, Brick and Mortar, but it's clearly a restaurant menu. So, but yeah, somebody called up, and it happens still today. Said, yeah, we're looking for some masonry work, blah, 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 blah. I said, honey, I got to stop you. We're a restaurant. With the name Brick and Mortar? said, yeah, well, long story. We call our red sauce a mortar sauce. We use brick cheese. And she's like, that's pretty confusing, honestly, to me. You might want to rethink. I said, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, maybe call back for lunch sometime. But yeah, it's happened for sure.
That's funny. Yeah, I had to ask.
Yeah.
So the people may or may not know that you have a music background. I was lucky enough to be involved with the music then and collaborate with you a little bit in that realm. Is there anything that music helped you contribute to how you like do business now?
Oh, I mean, I think that all of that. I mean, I think cooking it's obviously a creative thing. You're also pulling from other people's food, other ideas that have already been, it's already been done. Same with music, no music is necessarily 100% new. So I just think that kind of creative space that I got into when I was, playing music, which I still play today, but mainly for my two daughters who tell me to put the guitar down as soon as I pick it up. But it's that mentality. It's a creativity that fundamentally is entrepreneurship as well. I mean, to be able to, to be a good entrepreneur, you have to be creative. You have to think outside the box, and I think that's writing music too. That's 1 second. What's up, dude? You gotta print something right now. Is that okay? On a Zoom call. Can you give me like 15 or so?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So yeah, and I mean, when it comes down to music and food, they've been intertwined since the beginning of time. Really, they go hand in hand. It's entertainment. So I honestly would like to see this all come back full circle. And next door, when we open up over there, I'd love to have a stage over there. I'd love to do live music over there, and pop on stage and play guitar with whatever band we're booking, whatever. So yeah, that's once you've played live music, and I think you can probably attest to this too, you still think somewhere deep down, I think I still got a shot to be a rock star, It's still possible.
Whenever people talk to me about music and like whether or not I still think about it or want to play shows or whatever, it makes me think of the have you seen the is the last Rocky movie, and they just called it Balboa.
Yeah.
And he goes he's like in his late 50s or 60s or something like that, and he's going to take a fight with the champ of whoever's boxing right now. And he's like, there's still something in the basement. I can feel there's still something in the basement. I always feel like that. I always feel like, yeah, there's something in the basement. Like I'm sitting in a studio right now. I'm sitting in where I still randomly create music here and there. Yeah, there's always something in the basement, I feel like.
I think that successful people just build and build and build throughout their life on their skills and their interests and their talents. And I think the most successful people are the ones that incorporate those things they enjoy into whatever it is that is what they're currently doing. And, that being said, I try to, we just simply all love playing music here. Everybody gets their, Bluetooth hookup and gets to play their brand of music while we're cooking food, and it just makes it all more enjoyable. So yeah, I mean, it's still a huge part of my life. I play guitar almost every day and still, write songs for my daughters. And like I said, they don't like to hear them, but it's just fun. And I think you got to keep those things alive. You know, if you still enjoy them, you got to keep them alive, and you're just never too old to continue to keep dreaming about things like that, you know?
I can definitely get on board with that. So you brought up your daughters. They're obviously a family man these days. Thanksgiving is tomorrow. So I obviously, like, this is a different Thanksgiving than most years, but like, what does a spread look like in the Minella family, you know, being involved in the restaurant industry? What does a Thanksgiving spread look like?
So yeah, this year's definitely real different. So we're piecing together the menu. I'm just in charge of a charcuterie board for tomorrow, which is nice. You know, I don't have to, do a ton of cooking. But when it comes to like holidays and get-togethers and cooking, I still like to go, all out and try and cook something that is. I honestly don't like working off recipes. I don't like cooking the same thing twice. So for as much as I think it would probably benefit me to work off of things I know how to cook, that's not what I enjoy to do. So for the most part, when I'm cooking a meal at home, it's usually I really enjoy opening the fridge and seeing what's there and not buying an extra ingredient and coming up with something that's delicious. Just straight out of, I had leftover pulled pork and I got, whatever, and just coming up with something absolutely brand new. I mean, that's my personal favorite style of cooking, which comes through a lot when I'm cooking at home and for family.
Right on. So it's a toss up.
Yeah. Well, for tomorrow for Thanksgiving, we're having standard stuff. But like I said, all I'm in charge of is the charcuterie.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I'm not going to keep you too much longer. So what's next for Brick and Mortar? Like, what are any big plans coming up? What's the next development?
Yeah. Like I've been saying, we got this building next door. We're trying to figure out how to connect the building so that we can expand our dining room. We got a liquor license, so we'll be able to utilize that shortly. Hopefully we're going to have an upstairs space where we can do events. But I think really what I want to focus on for the long term isn't necessarily opening up another restaurant or even expanding the restaurant beyond next door. It's more along the lines of packaging items that we have, signature items, tortilla chips, bagging them up, sauces, jarring them up. Start off with a little bit of retail space here, and try to slowly build our business in prepackaged stuff from here. And I find that to be a much more scalable business in the restaurant industry than selling a million burgers and fries and doing that one ticket at a time. I would rather see long-term staying in the food industry, but doing it more in the prepared foods and packaged foods that we can sell in stores down the road.
Awesome. That's actually really cool. So I've been hitting you with all the questions for everyone to hear your answers. Now we flip the script. You get to ask the people listening anything you'd like to know from them. So what are you wondering that you'd like to ask the fine humans tuning in?
Are they answering these live?
Well, no, because we're not going live, but they'll pack them down in the comments or wherever, or they'll reach out to you.
I guess like what I would know from what I want to know from the general public about what I do would be, what are the main things? What's the number one thing you look at or think about when you're gonna be choosing a restaurant to go to? Is that number one thing price point? Is that number one thing style of food? Is that number one thing your Yelp rating? You know, what's the number one thing that you think about when you say, honey, where do you want to go eat?
All right. I like that. That's a good question. Well, so lastly, tell the people where they can reach you if they want to just respond to you directly, with your website, social media, etc., all those things.
Yeah, so burghbitestruck.com is where you're going to find information about our food truck. The email to get to us for any food truck booking is going to be on that. Eat Brick and Mortar is the restaurant website. That's where we have the full restaurant menu. We put up specials there. The phone number to reach us at is on there. So the shop number here is 412-276-0727. And then, yeah, we're on Facebook. You can find the Brick and Mortar page. You can find the Burgh Bites Truck page. We're on Instagram. And that's the main outlets that we, communicate with customers on there.
Awesome. Well, this is amazing. Believe it or not, you're actually the first restaurateur that I've had on here. So this is really exciting that I get to flex my restaurant questions on you, because I actually I've wanted to for a minute. I mean, people have just been busy, obviously.
Yeah.
But man, I appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, somebody popped in looking for you, looking to do something. So I know you're a busy guy. So thank you for taking the time. And I love you. I'm glad you're doing well. And I'm really looking forward to having a drink with you and seeing you again soon.
Yeah, dude, same. And honestly, I'm honored to have been thought about, when, to be first restaurant on your list. It's cool, man. We go back a good ways, and it's good to see that we're still finding a way to, stay in touch and be relevant to each other's professional careers.
100%. Yeah, we've always really kept a way to be working together.
Yeah,
for sure. That's definitely been something in our history, whether it's been your businesses or me doing design and or music.
You sang chorus, I think, on one of the early songs that me and Joe Herbick had.
Mm-hmm.
We have. You're right. We've always found a way to stay in touch and stay relevant to each other in what we've been doing in our lives. So that's pretty cool, man. That's unique.
100%. Well, take care. Stay safe. Stay sane. Happy Thanksgiving. And yeah, man. We definitely got to do a part 2 whenever you open up the second half.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks for having me, and appreciate it. You have a happy Thanksgiving too, and I hope everybody stays happy and healthy on your end as well.
All right, man. See ya.
Later.